A maiden began to brush up against Kain, so the young man turned around to dance with her. And when she started to interrogate Kain, he went to dance with another, and with his strategy, he avoided speaking to anyone for 3 hours. And he was completely drenched in sweat. When his legs could no longer sustain him, he wobbled to the bar and he sat down to have a cold beer. He gulped it down quickly since he was thirsty, and he was immediately overcome by a fit of paranoia. The beer had come from an open container, and the bartender could have easily drugged him. And when his back was turned, King looked for the bathroom and he threw up, and he gulped down water from the sink in order to quench his thirst. Waiting for him outside was Alexia, and he had seen King run to the bathroom, and he worried that his friend was drunk. I am fine, I only had 1 glass of champagne and a beer bottle, said King, and I think that caviar is rotten. It didn't sit right with me. Yeah, I agree, it wasn't all that good, said Alexia equanimously. Are you ready to head home, or do you need to bootleg a little more, asked Kain. I have more than enough bootlegging for 1 day, said Alexia. I'm going to need you to look tipsy to use you as an excuse to leave the party early. Kain rested his arm over Alexia's shoulder, and he did his best impression of a drunkard who was struggling to walk. Alexia apologized to his boss, and with his permission he was able to go home already. When the elevator door closed, Kain stopped malingering and he went to stand in the corner. I was thinking, Kain, why don't I give you a quick pick-me-up and then you give me a helping hand, said Alexia, coming to stand beside the moody Kain. I am with Eugenia, said Kain, folding his arm. And pray do tell me, where is this Eugenia you speak of, asked Alexia, giggling. Is she hiding in your pocket? Alexia placed his hand into Kain's pocket to look for Eugenia. Kain, annoyed, placed his hand on Alexia's shoulder to keep his horny friend at arm's length. Kanye, if you're with Eugenia, then why are you with me? Asked Alexia, caressing Kain's strong muscular arms. I hate being in the house by myself, and since everyone was busy, I agreed to be your +1, explained Kain. Alexia, extremely deflated, went to stand at the other side of the elevator, and then he said, Aren't you afraid of being seen with someone like me? People will talk. People always talk, and I know what I am and what I like, and it doesn't matter how I project myself to others. El ladrón siempre juzga por su condición, said Kain. I don't get it, said Alexia. You live in Miami and you don't speak Spanish. Get with the program, Alexia, said Kain, laughing. Ha, very funny. If I learn Spanish, will you sleep with me? Insisted Alexia, chasing after Kain. Suavemente, bésame, Kain. Sí, I speak Spanish, my love. The two ran around the enclosed space till they reached the first floor. Kain, giggling, said, Sheesh, enough already. Have some self-control, Alexia. Alexia tried to give chase, but his high heels were slowing him down. The two ran out of the building and into the walkway, and Kain stopped running when he heard Alexia screaming pain. Alexia had stumbled and fallen due to the ridiculously high heels he kept insisting on wearing. Kain returned to Alexia's side, and he gingerly picked up the skinny youth. My hero, said Alexia, kissing Kain on the cheek. Alexia could walk just fine, but he was malingering for attention, and his bruised knee did look pretty bad, though. I can still drop you, so stop pushing your luck, said Kain. I know you are lonely, and that mating is like your main coping mechanism or whatever, but try to have some self-control. Look at you, Mr. Sanson, using big words. Did you learn that from your shrink? Asked Alexia, giggling. Yes, said Kain, and maybe you should visit her. Una has a way of shrinking your problems to make them more manageable. Kain began to walk towards the parking lot while carrying his friend, and the conversation carried them as far as the car. Before they got inside, someone threw a rock at Kain. The rock missed him, and he struck the back of the window of the car. Kain placed Alexia down before turning around, and under the freaking street light, the two were able to see a group of bald men walking towards them. Kain reached into his pocket and he brought out his revolver, and this made the man pause. Alexia got inside the car quickly, and Kain opened the passenger seat, and he got inside the car while still aiming his gun. Alexia turned on the car, and he drove out of the parking lot quickly, and once the two of them were in the expressway, they breathed a sigh of relief. Next time we're paying for valet parking, said Kain. I'm sorry, Kain, said Alexia apologetically. It's not your fault, don't worry about it, said Kain, reclining back. After half an hour, Alexia arrived at Kain's home, and he lingered in front of the door since he didn't have the desire to return to his empty apartment. Kain, it has been a while, and I have needs that I want you to meet them, and I am begging you just for tonight, insisted Alexia, taking Kain's hand. Everyone just takes and takes, but no one's ever interested in giving me what I want, said Kain more to himself. If I give you what you want, will you become mine and mine alone, insisted Alexia. I want something you are incapable of giving me, Alexia. Respect, hissed Kain before closing the door in front of Alexia. Kain looked about his house and he frowned when he noticed that it was still empty. And with no one in the house, the bad thoughts began to creep inside his head, and he opened the door and he allowed his friend to sleep in the guest room. The following morning, Jack returned home, and his jam session with his sponsor had not gone as planned. The two had gone to the sandbar at Isla Morada to play live music, and their music had gotten a lukewarm reception. Jack was depressed, and he was angry at Ayuda for pressuring him to play in front of a real audience. I should have never turned my hobby into a profession, said Jack more to himself. Jack went into his bedroom and he got changed out of his stage outfit, and he looked at his scrawny reflection in the mirror. Nothing he wore ever looked good on him, and he grabbed the guitar to smash his reflection, but then he remembered that he was living in Kain's house. The new target for his feet was his pillow, and when he got tired of punching the pillow, he screamed into it. Kain, who was an early bird like his grandpa, came into his father's room to see if he was home, and he caught his father in the middle of his fit. And Kain sat down beside his father, and he patted his hair lovingly. And when Jack was calmer, Kain asked, "How do you want me to make your pancakes today?" "I'm not hungry," said Jack, refusing to get out of bed. "If you're not planning to eat, can you at least come sit with me at the table? And there's nothing more depressing than to eat alone." "Tell me about it," said Jack, getting out of his bed. "I'm going to shower first." Jack cried alone in the shower for half an hour, and when he finally regained control of his emotions, he went to sit at the breakfast table. The smell of bacon lured Alexia out of the guest room, and Jack narrowed his eyes when he saw Alexia coming into the room wearing one of Kain's pajamas. "When I told you to leave in the moment, this was not what I had in mind," said Jack, pointing to Alexia. "Nothing happened between us. You can relax," said Alexia, scratching his navel. And before Alexia got a chance to settle down, Jack said, "That seat belongs to Kain." "Can I sit in this one?" as Alexia changed his place. "That one also belongs to Kain," said Jack, narrowing his eyes. Alexia paid him no mind. "Dad is just a little moody because he's hungry," said Kain, coming over with Jack's plate. "You can sit wherever you like. You are my guest." Jack stared at his food without much enthusiasm, and the smell of fresh bacon eventually awoke his hunger, and he started to eat earnestly. Alexia was the next person to be fed, followed by the host himself, and there was an awkward silence reigning over the breakfast table that was only broken up by the sound of, silverware moving about. In order to break the ice, Kain said to Alexia, "Do you still play with Pokemon cards?" "Not really," asked Alexia, raising an eyebrow. "I was never into that card game, and I only played it because you seem to be very into that stupid kids game." "I only played it because I thought you liked it," lied Kain. "Kain still collects Pokemon cards, though he doesn't play the game with anyone," said Jack, contradicting his son. "Every time he goes to Publix, he buys a one Pokemon card worth 50 cents. Alexia laughed in spite of himself, and Kain narrowed his eyes and said, "You don't see me laughing at you for wearing a dress and makeup." "I'm sorry," said Alexia apologetically, and he added, giving a fake smile, "I still have my old deck, and I will be more than happy to play with you once in a while, Kain." "You shouldn't torture yourself for want of company, Alexia," said Kain. "And we like different things, and that's fine, and we shouldn't let these minor differences get in the way of rekindling our friendship." "I don't want to be your friend, Kain," complained Alexia. "I want to be your lover." "In life we don't always get what we want," said Kain in mimicry of his grandpa. "You can either accept the friendship that I'm offering you, or we can go our separate ways. The choice is yours, Alexia." Alexia meditated his options. He tried the pancakes, and in the end his stomach decided for him. And Alexia said without much enthusiasm, "Fine, we can be friends. Just friends." "Can I be your friend too, son?" asked Jack meekly. "We never stopped being friends, Dad," lied Kain. Hearing this quiet lie lifted Jack's spirits, and he dug into his pancakes with much enthusiasm. And after breakfast, Alexia went home, and he thought that he had abused Kain's hospitality enough. Kain picked up the dishes and he went to the sink to clean them up. "How good is your singing voice, Kain?" asked Jack, brainstorming an idea. "I don't know, you tell me." "Do, re, mi, fa, sol," said Kain, singing the scales. Jack covered his ears when Kain hit a high note, and his singing voice was just ghastly. "Just give it up, Dad. So what if you never become a famous musician or even a moderately successful one? As long as you're having fun playing your music, who cares what the audience thinks?" "You sound just like Eugenia," said Jack, resting his head on the table. "How do you do it, Kain? How can you do that soul-sucking job you care nothing about?" "Doing a job I don't like isn't as bad as you might think," said Kain. "My co-workers and I make a decent salary, and I have health insurance, and as long as I do what my uncle tells me, I can make it to retirement without getting shot at. What's not to love about being a cop?" "Do you ever consider making a career out of being an artist? Your portraits are quite realistic, and have you tried painting?" asked Jack. "I am colorblind, and what do you think? I only draw in black and white," said Kain. "I thought you were just being cheap," said Jack. "And if I wasn't colorblind, I am a talentless hack that can only mimic nature," said Kain after he concluded the dishes. When Kain returned to his work, something had changed. Jack had pitched to his brother the idea of having Kain work as a forensic artist. Kain was brought before the current artist, and Officer Richard was a failed painter, and he had followed the artist path from a young age. And he even had a bachelor in fine arts. Kain entered the station with his portfolio. Richard wanted to see the level of skill of his prospective student, and he was way past retirement, and his wife was pressuring him to quit his day job already. He was a short fellow with a bald head and small, suspecting black eyes, and he had olive skin, and he looked through Kain's portfolio without much enthusiasm. As a draftsman, there was nothing special about Kain's drawing, and for the purposes of working as a forensic artist, he was good enough. All that mattered was that Kain could render realistic human faces. Richard gave Kain a drawing test. "I'm going to give you a transcription of a victim's description of her attacker, and this is a person that has already been caught, so there won't be any pressure for you to get the details right, and you have until the end of the day to deliver your sketch," said Richard before departing. Kain read the transcript, and he spent the rest of the day doing that homework, and he made 3 sketches based on the flimsy information he had to go by. Richard passed by to see the final results. "You get an E for effort, Kain," said Richard, looking at the drawings over the top, "though in the future try not to be so literal with your drawing, unless you create caricatures instead of human beings." "I do exactly what the person described," protested Kain. "Yes, and that is a problem," said Richard. "People do not normally find themselves in situations where they have to describe what a person looks like, and with child victims things are much harder, and due to the limited vocabulary. It is the role of a forensic sketch artist to sort through the muck in order to bring the perpetrator to light. Your second sketch was the most accurate." Richard raced into his portfolio, and he brought out the artist sketch he had made, and then showed Kain the photograph of the assailant. Kain had gotten pretty close, and the second time around. Richard handed his apprentices some workbooks that had him practice drawing human faces, and for homework Kain had to write down a description of his father's face. And this would give Kain a good idea of how difficult it was to convey with words what a person looks like. Kain didn't show any opposition to this new role, and he was getting a free art lesson, free art books, and he was getting paid to draw all day. It was a rainy September day in Karina's house, and she awoke to the smell of burnt toast. And she found beside her bed a grilled cheese sandwich, oatmeal, and a bottle of mineral water. Bruno had attempted to make her breakfast in bed, and he had left work early. Karina tried the grilled cheese sandwich. It was delicious, but a little too fatty for her slow metabolism. And she had the oatmeal with mineral water, and she felt bad about throwing away the sandwich, but she had to start watching her weight, as lately Bruno was spending all of his free time with her, and he only ever bothered to go to his apartment in order to work on his cases. Karina pondered on this current state of affairs, and with her boyfriend sleeping over practically every night, it almost felt as if they were living together. At the end of her breakfast, Karina went to work, and she was finally used to her job, and one could almost say that she was enjoying it. Her co-workers were a different story, and they spent most of their time gossiping like parrots, and there was one in particular that kept checking up on Karina. Karina didn't know what was the deal with that woman, but her constant interruptions were distracting, and her workday came to an end, and she texted Bruno to see what he was up to. And he reported that he was buried under a mountain of paperwork, and he sent a selfie of him surrounded by said paperwork. Karina drove home to her mother and Ula took that chance to give a bit of therapy to her daughter. And the topic of conversation was a new behavior that Bruno was exhibiting, and when he thought he wasn't being watched, he would start pacing the room while mumbling to himself. Society has conditioned men to live lives of quiet desperation, and women only find out that there's a problem with their men when they explode, said Ula. I only found out your father was sick when he started coughing out blood, and Bruno, the two of you only recently started dating. You do not know the type of baggage he is carrying, or what is his true normal behavior. So when his mask starts dropping, do try to keep your temper in check, otherwise you are never going to know the truth, Bruno. Keeping my temper in check is easier said than done, mother, retorted Karina. You never know until you try, said Online, and let us discuss your most recent jealousy, Osbert. And what did your man do that made you feel insecure about your relationship? Bruno has been working long hours with a co-worker, said Karina, and yesterday I came to his office to bring him dinner. If I don't feed him, he just orders takeout and I'm worried about his cholesterol levels. The point is that I made a scene because he didn't tell me that his co-worker was a woman. It is irrational for you to expect Bruno to avoid working with other women, said Unla. I know, Mom, I know. It is just she's very pretty, almost as pretty as Eugenia, said Karina. And the way she was leaning over Bruno, that slut was trying to seduce my man. Eureka, said Unla, giving a sly smile. Every time you speak of other women, you bring the name Eugenia. Your first major fight with Bruno was because of Eugenia. Tell me, Karina, what is your problem with Eugenia exactly? I don't have a problem with Eugenia. My problem is that I find it difficult to sleep with Bruno while he's thinking of another woman, said Karina, rubbing her temple. The only person who can't stop thinking of Eugenia is you, Karina, said Ola, shaking her head sadly. Let's put that problem on ice for now, and let us discuss your first boyfriend, Malik. If I remember correctly, he left you for a girl that resembled Eugenia. I don't want to talk about Malik, Mama, protested Karina. You are never going to have a healthy relationship if you do not process the grief that this betrayal caused, insisted Ola, putting her finger into her daughter's festering open wound. Karina was saved from the situation by Bruno arriving to her home early, and he was bringing a gift box for his girlfriends, and when she opened the box, she found inside some furniture for her little dollhouse. I was rummaging through a dresser when I found these little miniatures for your dollhouse, said Bruno. Thank you, Bruno. It was a really thoughtful present, said Karina, looking at the miniature chair. You're not angry anymore. I wasn't angry at you, Karina, just exasperated. A man does get tired of getting yelled at every 5 seconds, protested Bruno. Perfect. Now that you're here, let's do some couples therapy, said Unla, changing gambits. Karina and Bruno spent an hour talking about their feelings, and while Karina laid her heart open, Bruno only said half-truths. And it flattered his pride to know just how obsessed Karina was with him. And with therapy out of the way, the two settled down to watch telenovelas. All was forgiven, all was forgotten. The two made love after dinner, and after they finished, Karina got a new present from Bruno, and by the looks of the box, Karina imagined that she was getting a wedding ring. And when Bruno opened the box, there was a key to his apartment. You bought me a car? Asked Karina, smiling happily. Thank you. No, this is just a key to my apartment, said Bruno, yawning. You can show up unannounced whenever you want to. Your apartment stinks, Bruno, and I never want to set foot in that pigsty ever again, said Karina, frowning. But thanks for the sentiment, though. You're welcome, said Bruno, not feeling offended by the truth. His apartment was indeed a pigsty. Why do you even live like that, asked Karina? You clean after yourself everywhere else. Why can't you clean your own home? I work a lot, so I rarely had the energy to clean up after myself, lied Bruno. Karina narrowed her eyes when she noticed that her man had lied straight to her face, and she began to poke his belly to pressure him into telling her the truth. Bruno sighed with frustration before telling Karina a different lie. My apartment serves purely utilitarian purposes. I had no reason to clean it because I spent so little time in there. There, was that a bit of honesty so hard to manage, asked Karina, resting her head on Bruno's shoulder. Yes, I felt myself dying a little, lied Bruno. Go to sleep, you big goof, said Karina, closing her eyes, and try not to snore. I can't control what I do in my sleep, said Bruno. That's why I said try, said Karina, pressing herself tighter against Bruno's bare flesh. Bruno stayed away, staring at the roof, and Karina was sleeping soundly beside him, and the more time he spent with Karina, the easier it was for her to tell that he was lying. She was sharper than he had given her credit, and it annoyed him to the very core to be forced to be honest with the woman. Bruno ran through his head all the time that Karina had noted that he had been lying. He began to ponder what about his inflection of his voice or his mannerisms had gave away the truth, and he needed to refine his act in order to get the woman to trust everything he said. Perhaps if he had a moment of brutal honesty with her, then maybe it would make it easier for Karina to believe everything else he said from that point forward. Alright, that's the end of that chapter. Mostly because I can't read them more. Bye bye and God bless.